Come take a seat. Get a drink. Enjoy. We're about to get started.
Give me a drink.
What'd you say? You need a drink? Thank you so much for being here. The Inclusion Cafe has been a dream of Amphilians, and we have been blessed with an amazing lineup this morning. And right now, I am so honored to be introducing Bonin Bough, who is co-founder and chief storyteller. Group Black. Thank you to Group Black for bringing this collective together. So I'm going to turn it over to Bonin and take it from here.
Right.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Strategy officer, but storyteller sounds much better. That's my co-founder.
Sometimes we make it up as we go.
About right. Story of my life, right. Well, first of all, thank you guys. I know it's hot and I was going to say early, but early for those that I saw at 3 a.m., maybe not for some who actually wake up at a reasonable time. I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves. The topic of the panel is about impact. And actually, as we discussed in our last panel, maybe the word impact is not even the right word to use. It's really growth and growth for brands. And actually, it was a discussion on our Zoom call, which we changed it really to talk about growth. And I'll get into that. But first, I'm going to start with Pauline. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. Pauline Malcolm Thornton. I am the Chief Revenue Officer for Essence Ventures. Essence Ventures has the largest portfolio of brands, super serving multicultural audiences. We serve over 50 million consumers globally across household brands like Essence, which has been super serving Black women for over 50 years. We also own BeautyCon, which is the largest beauty festival in the world. Afropunk, which is both a music festival and a platform for creativity, specifically focusing on the LGBTQA+ Gen Z audience, and Essence Studios, which is our original film studio, telling the stories of Black women all over the world, and happy to be here.
We are excited to have you. Nikki, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Nikki Fowler. I'm the founder and CEO of Glitter Magazine and Sirs Media Group. I'm an independent publisher. I've been publishing globally and domestic in the US for the past 20 years. My first title was Globe Magazine, and I also had a boutique marketing agency. And as a woman of color, I was, working with brands like Versace, Dior, Heineken, Diageo brands, which was kind of unheard of back in 2002. And then started Glitter Magazine in 2006, and we were on 8,000 newsstands, all 50 states, and we went from print to digital in 2018. And we have a very global demo, reaching 10 to 20 million impressions per month across all our platforms. Thank you.
Gary?
Thank you, sir. Gary Coichy here, very excited to be here. My name is Gary Coichy. I'm the founder and CEO of Pod Digital Media. Pod Digital Media, we are the first and the largest multicultural podcast network in the country. We work with well over 400 podcasters, focusing primarily in the African American and Hispanic community. Within the last 12 months, we've launched an experiential arm called House of Pod, which is where we take our podcasters on the road, creating live podcast activations around key cultural moments such as Art Basel, Super Bowl, All-Star, HBCU homecomings, Black Music Month. And then we also launched an influencer arm where we're basically connecting advertisers with podcasters that have a large following on social media.
Cool. Thank you, Gary. Christian?
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Christian. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Audiomob. I'm clearly from London accent, but I'm actually based in New York. We invented in-game audio ads. So to give you an idea, let's say that you're racing in a car in a mobile game, it crashes, and you get an annoying pop-up video ad that may appear. Instead, an audio ad can play out of the radio and enable the player to continue playing the game. So advertisers get a price-efficient entry point into mobile gaming, which is the largest growing medium. Developers, they enable to get more revenue from each player, but not damage retention. And of course, the player is less annoyed with the experience. We access 1.8 billion people globally now, and are one of the largest audio platforms in the world currently.
Okay, so just a few people. All right. Lynnwood, do you want to go?
Thanks for having me here, of course. Lynnwood Bibbens, CEO and founder of ReachTV. We basically, our superpowers owning the travel media space. So we have 90 airports in the US, Canada, growing globally, 500,000 hotel rooms that we stream to, in-flight, lounges, so forth, so on. This year we really launched our data platform with over 500 million first-party data that we're able to travel, go watch people through their entire journey. That's what we're doing. Started in 16, and this is where we are.
So, I think at Group Black, our mission this year, our goal for this year at Cannes was really to change the narrative. I told a story where I think it was in that ballroom over there, where during one of the CMO lunches, a good friend of mine who I've known for multiple decades, and I'm only 20, so came up to me and said, I really want to meet with you guys. I just want to make sure it's not charity. And I was beside myself. I said, I got to walk away. I don't even, you know who I am, and I am what I've done. And that made me realize that, unfortunately, and this is, I'm going to say, not even black media, but black-owned media, because what I think is interesting about everybody up here, first of all, many of them said the first, and many of them said the largest, but also every single platform here is not about just targeting African Americans. You are black media owners, and we always used to say, look, if Paramount can own BET, or maybe we can can own BET, then we should be able to own NBC. Like, why are we, when we walk in the door, immediately put into a box which suggests that we can only service the people who look like us, but yet all of our other counterparts? But I thought, Christian, you raised a very good question, because I think a lot of times we get hit with the same thing, which is, okay, I need to see a case study, I need to show results. And you said, I got hundreds how many case studies do you need to see? But just talk a little bit about that experience and kind of why that triggered something for you.
So we have over 200 case studies across pretty much every major brand vertical that a DSP, an exchange, or a holding company would be interested in. And what we noticed kept happening is that across multiple teams, they were always asking for the next case study, the next case study. Now, again, Audiomob is 3.5 years old. We've seen a lot of success, so there is an educational piece there. But I guess one question that we had was, what does the structure of the case study need to be so that when that is passed on to another team, that there is the automatic belief of the value that, we are a global platform, we can access any demographic rather than demographics that just look like us. So on one case is definitely a perception and an educational standpoint on their side, but there may be things that we could also do in order to make that transition easier.
Got it. And Nikki, when we were on the call, you talked a little bit about the fact that when you started this journey, it was a journey to really reach a demographic, not necessarily, race, but a demographic that had been underserved. Do you feel like over the last 3 years, they've tried to ask you to be more focused on, speak?
So,
you hear where I'm going.
I've been doing this a long time, and it was very interesting that I have this perspective of publishing outside the country of the U.S., throughout the West Indies, Caribbean, Europe, and some of the U.S., and being really anonymous and no one really knowing that a black woman owned the magazine and company that I had. They just assumed, well, who's your backer, or where's the owner, And so once Google, the rise of Google, the rise of social media, and everyone is able to Google who you are, with my second title, Glitter, they didn't quite know from 2006 on to 2018, but then the question came, I was able to work with many different celebrities, and no one questioned it. But once people found out that I was a woman of color, it was an instantaneous, oh, well, you can't do that. You have to go over here. You have to do this. Where we have a demo, a very broad demo for our company. And 50% is white, 50% is people of color. And, when I founded Glitter, it was to show what a true mainstream was. So in 2006, where a lot of magazines had a motto of "you can't sit with us," we were "you can sit with us," and we featured the underserved, like Trevor Jackson, Coco Jones, we were the only magazine in history to put China and McLean on a cover, which to me is still baffling. So then working with agencies, they just didn't know where to put me because since 2021, they're trying to be inclusive, but then just not understanding that Black-owned media does not mean Black-focused. And just as Vogue and everyone else can be diverse in 2020, they have to understand that we're diverse. We should have that same privilege. So that's just a little bit of what I've been dealing with. Yeah.
Right. And Pauline, you guys have the largest festival, period, in the world. Well, you do have a...
it's much, we have the largest festival.
In the galaxy.
By per day attendance globally. Last year we did over 2 million unique attendees, which was in person and then it's streamed, which, when you think about from a media perspective, we make it really easy for brands to buy from us because we just don't do live events. We ensure that everything is streamed. And then we also just announced a major partnership with Hulu that is streaming our nightly concerts, and Hulu has over 101 million ad-supported viewers across their platform. So we have the largest festival, full stop, per day. And we want that largest revenue from a media perspective, because I think a lot of planners are still putting us in a small, sort of marginalized bucket. But when you're talking about 2 million unique attendees, over 30 minutes time spent at our booths, at our festival, that's unparalleled. You're not going to get that from any other festival.
And talk a little bit about, because you guys just put out an impact report. Just talk a little bit about the impact, because you guys are the first and second largest day of economic transaction in the city of New Orleans, bigger than Mardi Gras, bigger than Christmas, like... Yeah. Santa's big.
Bigger than Santa.
Santa's global.
Bigger than Santa.
You're
I love it,
galactical.
Bonin. I'm using that. I'm taking it. Bigger than Santa. So our festival has been, who's been to Essence Festival? Okay, it's one of the, if you have not been, come see us next week, because we're in New Orleans.
By the way, if you thought it was hot here, go to New Orleans next week.
But it's next week, so it's like Camden, New Orleans. And we've been doing this festival, now it's in its 29th year. The economic impact to the city of New Orleans is unparalleled. There's been a lot of studies done, most recently by Dillard University, where in 2022 alone, we drove over $327 million to the local economy in New Orleans, $327 million, and $4 billion cumulatively over the history of the festival. And so in terms of the economic impact on the Black community, in creating wealth, in creating jobs, it's unparalleled what the festival is able to do.
And I think what's interesting about the journey was, because I saw it kind of from the front row when Rich was on the journey buying it, Time didn't really believe in the product. I mean, they had underinvested in it, and just proof about the economic opportunity. So when we talk about this audience, and I don't want to go beyond this audience because the impact that you guys have on culture is much broader. It's an audience that has $1.7 trillion worth of spending power. Most brands index maybe 10 or 20%. If I told you that, you go, where's this mythical audience? Well, guess what? It's right here. It's just that nobody's invested in building the infrastructure to unlock the consumer dollars. Now, the good news is corporate America understands how to build infrastructure. It's called China, it's called Brazil, it's called India. Literally, we created consumerism there, now alongside those governments, but that unlocked, and that was the growth driver for many organizations for the last 15 years. That's where we believe the same opportunity is here. And when you guys bought it, all you did was really invest in that consumer, but not in the same way, which is the archetype, which is, hey, let's put another act on the stage. You guys came in, and now you guys have Health Festival, the Well.
It is it was retitled. It was originally called Essence Festival Music Festival, but we renamed it to Essence Festival of Culture because literally we are super serving whatever your interests are. From an economic standpoint, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a media publisher, if you're a wellness enthusiast, really we have workshops, panels to serve whatever you might be interested in, and experts across a number of disciplines. So much so, like Kamala Harris was there last year, the Biden administration, or Biden himself will be here next week. Everyone.
Is that breaking news or what?
That's breaking news.
Okay, yeah, you heard it here.
You heard it here first. Every
But if you're
major
on the right, you didn't
politician,
hear it here. No, just kidding.
every major politician, expert makes it their business to get in front of the 2 million unique attendees that we bring to New Orleans and also virtually all around the world, streaming our festival next weekend.
And just so people understand what the magnitude of what, when the festival was bought, I think that year it did 100,000 people. People used to lock their doors. And, merchants didn't want to have anything to do with Essence Festival. Now they beg to be a part of it, and now it's 2 million people, and that's because they actually invested in this community, and as a result, the community has reinvested back.
Absolutely, and we've ensured also that our brand partners are coming in from a multi-year perspective.
Right. That's
To your point, when Essence was acquired by the Dennis family, Time really didn't invest in the property, and also a lot of the brand relationships were transactional. Right. We did a lot of work under Mr. Dennis's leadership in giving you a shout out.
Right, leadership's a broad word. Let's be.
Yeah. We did a lot of work in reimagining those relationships with partners, so they're not just coming in on a transactional basis. They're actually coming in multi-year engagements, 3 to 5 years, which is super important because we come to the table every year and really plan how they're going to not only activate with us at Essence Festival, but 365, 24/7, because we're not just a festival. We have live events, tent poles throughout the year. We have a huge brand studio and always on content studio where we're creating content for our consumers every single day. And obviously a magazine that has been super serving this audience for over 50 years. So really we want to ensure that the brand partners that are coming in are really investing into that community and not just doing one and done coming in at the festival.
Right, and I think that's the important piece, is that the continued investment is what actually grows the opportunity. The study that was done by McKinsey said that had we invested in black-owned businesses at the same rate over the last 20 years, that $1.7 trillion would have been $17 trillion worth of spending, which is wiping out the GDP, and everybody grows as a result of that. But you guys also have outsized impact beyond just the black community. So what you guys do in that community also shapes culture. Just talk a little bit about how you kind of quantify that. I know Nielsen and us, shameless plug, we just did a study. And when the study came to us, I was clearly not paying enough attention, but they called it Black Power. I was like, wow, that is aggressive. But you're right, let's go.
But to your point, Bonin, and again, I also we just relaunched the BeautyCon brand last week, which is it's focused on all audiences. It's an incredibly inclusive community where it's super serving any beauty enthusiast, not just black women, but any beauty enthusiast. But in terms of your point, in terms of outsizing that community, black women are tastemakers. We're influencers, right? And, our influence in black culture really is American culture for all intents and purposes. And when you look at, even with the creator economy and what we've been able to do on platforms like TikTok, we are normally setting the trends and not getting the value from that from a revenue perspective. So some of the deals that I've been doing is working on the average creator right now makes 54 cents on a dollar,
right.
Black and brown creators. So we are creating partnerships with other companies to ensure that we are making sure that creators are paid their just due and that are equitable with their white counterparts by ensuring that it's all data-driven in terms of the influence that they're driving to brands.
Gary, I didn't bring you here just because you're pretty. So, first of all, audio as a category, what's the growth been like?
It's been incredible. There's a recent study that came out, I believe earlier this year, that shows that the diverse community has sort of passed the general market community by 5%.
Uh-oh. They didn't like the number was too big. Too big, Gary.
No, we certainly have exceeded, we have grown by a total of 42% in comparison to the general market that's currently at 37%, right? So therefore that audience is growing, that's both from the AA side and the Hispanic side. And all the numbers point when a black person hears an ad from another black person, that they're more than likely to convert because they can hear themselves in that person when they're listening to a podcast. We're currently right now, the audio industry as a whole, we're currently heading towards, I believe by 2025, towards to be $4 billion. And that's just solely within the last 5 to 7 years. So the audio as a medium has been growing, is emerging, it's still growing. But also, most importantly, the diverse audiences have been exceeding all other audiences, and we know audio is actually it's a very intimate environment when someone's listening to a podcast in the kitchen, in the cars, at the gym. So therefore, they really have that one-on-one connection with the podcast host. So we certainly know it's a medium where brands can actually, they've seen great success. And knowing the buying power of the multicultural segment, as you stated, it's about $1.7 trillion. So when you take that buying power and you put it in that intimate environment, you're absolutely going to see success.
And I think you touched on something, and I'm trying to be very conscious about the words that I use because I feel like some words now have become trigger words. So this word is one of those, but I don't know how to explain it without using it. What? Oh. Jesus Christ. That's so much for a co-founder. Travis Montague, everybody. But representation. And, again, I think that word, it now carries with it maybe stigmatism. But the reality is that's what we see time and time again. And so part of the investment that has to be made in this infrastructure is not just the pipes, but also the content that connects. And people say, well, same name said network, they can reach black people and I can just advertise in general market. If you go back to the 50s, ABC reached women, but P&G realized that it didn't connect to the point where they actually created soap operas, a specific genre to connect, and that's what actually created, their dominance in television. And we see the same thing. When you look, there's been superhero movies forever. The moment we put black people in it, guess what? It didn't alienate the segment, but it grew the segment, and that's why Black Panther was the #1. So just talk about how are you working with advertisers to help them understand that both of those pieces are needed, the pipes and the people.
No, for sure. On our end, for example, we have a multi-million dollar opportunity with McDonald's, and we were able, as part of the experiential arm of the business that we launched last year, we did an activation in Miami early in the year for Black History Month. And we, of course, we are podcasters. We had a black podcaster, Kenny Burns, who hosted the activation, and we were sort of celebrating change leaders within their community all throughout the country. We went ahead and hired a black producer. We went ahead and also hired a black production company. And 2 months after the activation, the gentleman that owned the production company said, it was a dream come true. I worked at McDonald's as my first job, and I had the opportunity to work with McDonald's. And by getting this activation, saying that I work with McDonald's, I was able to actually go out and work with other large brands. So he doesn't just start and stop with me. It started with a podcast creator that had no idea what an impression was, and we taught them that process as to how, because all they knew is to create content, and now we're helping them monetize their content. Now they're actually able to go out and actually hire a black producer, right? So therefore, not only now you're able to grow your business because you're reaching an audience authentically, but you're also we don't have those numbers as Essence does, but the impact that we have in the economy is, it's immeasurable. Simply because now you're able to help producers that would never have a chance to create a podcast for McDonald's. However, we're able to go down and reach those producers because we have access to, because we're part of that culture, we're part of that community.
We can partner together, and we are partnering together.
And we are partnering together, exactly.
So you had $3 billion of impact too, Gary, just,
No, absolutely.
Via my partners.
Right. Exactly.
Nikki, so I'm saying representation, but when you created your business initially, it was to reach just an underserved conversation. How did you deal with did you even think about representation? Just curious.
Oh, absolutely. Well, my first title was, I just wanted to start a magazine, so I did. But definitely when I came back to the States with Glitter, I definitely looked through the glossies, and I've, kind of freelanced at Condé Nast, and I kind of just knew the culture, and I knew that there were so many names that were just being left out of the conversation. My magazine was the first to feature Zendaya. I mentioned a few other names before, but, I just felt that it was just super important because, Black culture is mainstream culture, and I've just been like repeating that and repeating that. For example, my company started a self-love campaign in 2015, and just to give this as an example, no one was using the word self-love or self-care online at all in the mainstream prior to 2015. So we got Normani and Dove Cameron and all of our celebrity clients to do a viral campaign. And look at the impact that that's had. You have not a brand or a celebrity that hasn't talked about self-love or self-care over the past 8 or so years. So that's just proof to show how Black-owned media influences the globe.
Right.
So.
I would have worn it had they not lost my luggage, but you know, I don't think many people. Yeah, I'm so heated about that, Travis.
I lost my luggage
Did you?
too.
So we'll
Air France.
We'll swap.
Offline. I bought this outfit today, y'all.
Well, it looks beautiful.
Speaking of outfits, I just want to chime in too that when I worked abroad, I was able to transact with luxury brands like Versace and Dior. But when I came back, you know, just seeing even Essence and Black women, we lead with, you know, style and fashion, and I just don't see that represented in the advertising with Black-owned media, and I want to know why.
Right. Well, and you know, I think the fact of the matter is that there's so many facets of what culture is, and we're a big aspect of it, and that aspect is, what people don't know is that when Beverly Johnson, the first Black woman to be on the cover of Vogue, I would have worn a photo that my dad took on my t-shirt, but again, they lost my luggage. But that was the #1 selling issue of Vogue that they had in the history of Vogue. And so, like, that growth unlock, people just haven't really tapped into yet at scale, and that's where the opportunity really is. Okay, look, I know the $1 million question is, do Black people travel?
I think they do.
Right. No,
We're here.
So what I find vastly interesting about your journey, we spoke on another panel, and the person who owned a portion of the business, not even the same size business that you own today, when you were talking about where they're forcing you, the budgets that they're asking you to be a part of, they were blown away. They couldn't believe that is how the business is being treated. Just talk a little bit about, because your business, that's why I joked about do Black people travel, because the percentage is relatively low in comparison to, so there really is no reason why you should be in a multicultural budget.
I mean, the business was bought for 30 years the same one way. Only thing changed is I own it.
Right.
You know, and actually what's changed for the better is now we're the only network with every NFL game. So I have every live NFL game, playoffs, Super Bowl for the next 7 years. So that wasn't even there before. We do live CNBC in the morning, so we have live content, live sports. We're signing some other deals that I'll be able to announce later. But again, more live sports. And it was funny to them because certain agencies were putting me into Black targeted media. And I'm like, have you been to an airport? You know, we have 44 million viewers a month, $2.5 billion in transactions every single month happening inside our airport, and it's not Black people doing that, right? It just happens to be Black owned. And so what we've been doing is making sure that they're educated, understand it, take away any excuses they have. But I see tremendous growth. I'm gonna go the other way and say that most people want to do the right thing, they just don't know how to. And me and Gary talked about this. Sometimes you have to simplify how you work with everyone to get them on board. Sometimes you have to call them out. Like when they were trying to put me to a Black targeted when I'm in the airport, doesn't make any sense. So I made a joke and just got up and left. I mean, that's not gonna work. You're not gonna get 6% of my audience and think that's what I'm gonna take. That doesn't make any sense. So, you know, that's really where we've started to do was answer all the questions. We have the 500 million first party data. We have the 44 million viewers. We have live sports. We see the viewership. We have iSpot, Nielsen, every measurement you can have. And we just basically put that package together. And if somebody doesn't want it, just move on. We've been growing at 150% year over year over year, and we'll keep doing that. Regardless, I'm going to win no matter what. So.
Win, win, win. No, I know you will, Lynnwood. If there's anybody I'm betting on, it's Pauline. No.
Yeah. I knew that was coming.
But I think what you said in terms of like teaching them, or sometimes it's an education issue, it's a big one. You know, I remember the agency will remain nameless, but being in a large agency meeting, they had no idea that Essence Festival was larger than Coachella. None. And that in coming from General Market, prior to joining Essence, it really is just it's a lack of education in many respects. And, you know, for us, again, like ensuring that everything is streamed and working with big partners like Hulu to, again, raise the profile of what we're doing because it is massive. We're gonna beat Coachella. We're coming for you from a revenue perspective, but we're already bigger from an audience, and that money should be commensurate with the audience that we're serving.
Right. For the camera.
We on what the, yes. We're coming for Coachella because we're bigger, but they're getting more dollars right now because of the awareness within general market. But we should absolutely be getting general market dollars because we're reaching a general market audience from a scale perspective.
Right. You want to say something? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say Hulu's one thing, but there's also ways that we could all partner together to help streamline that as well, starting from the content. I think the great part about Essence Festival for me is that you look at the piece of content and it goes everywhere. Like I know so many people that go and the
it's a
impact.
travel audience.
Exactly.
60% of the audience, they're traveling in,
in.
they're affluent. We should absolutely be partnering together.
Well, I think that brings up the topic that you were focused on me focusing on, which was how do we collectively bring a much broader package into the market. So I want to come back to that because I have a couple of challenges. But Christian, I just want to ask you, when you are selling, what is the pushback? Forget about the, black-owned component. Is there a pushback on understanding in-game audio? Do they treat it different than?
So they would treat it differently in the sense that you've got very different buyers. You've got your traditional audio buyers that are only interested in radio and podcast. Then you've got your display buyers that want to get into gaming. And then you've got your general buyers that basically don't know where to position. They'll try anything to get into mobile gaming. So what we found, and it kind of links to the education piece, from one side, it's educating them that this technology does exist and it works. It's getting rid of any assumptions that, at Audiomob, we're a team of scientists, ex-Meta, ex-Google. We actually have a lab where we are developing world cutting edge technologies, which has led to the case studies. And it's just being kind of very, aggressive's not the right word, but, very candid and, not too humble about, the great work that we do. And on the other side of the coin, it's using that same approach, but pitching the scale as well. Because initially, and everyone else here has experienced that, they automatically assume you can help me reach a diverse audience, but then giving them an idea of the whole scale, that this is a general play, just being very, very candid and upfront about that.
Do you position yourself as general market?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, because we reach 1.8 billion people, we reach more than half of general app users, so it's not just games, we've expanded into apps as well. Once you give them an idea of that scale, it's very easy for them to understand that we're a general scale, not just a ethnic minority targeting platform.
Right. Verse, that
dominant
collectively.
travel media company.
Right. Okay. Right. Fair enough. The dominant travel media company.
But can I say something else first?
Yeah.
I did decline to go to New Fronts because I'm in TV upfronts. And I was pissed off. I'm like, CNN's airport has been in the TV upfronts the entire time. Why would I go to something different? So I refused and stayed to the TV upfronts. I mean, no other platform has the live games, has the live sports. I just refused. And the next year they put me in. So sometimes you have to take it on the chin to get where you need to be because 98% of my revenue comes from TV and video. So if I would have moved another way, I would have gotten put into another bucket. So I stayed there. So that was one thing that I wanted to make sure is clear. Sometimes you have to stand on what you know you're going to be at.
Hey, man, that's why I was asking, and maybe we should sit out on some of these next time. But Chris is like, no, I need this money, dude. Come on, we're growing.
Now get me thinking.
No,
We all want to grow.
Right. I think probably more we just need to educate, but anyway, it was for the cameras.
No,
so, but talk
me,
about
for me, collective is I told this to Gary because I'm going to use Gary for example. The Jalen Rose, I literally watch all the time on Instagram, right? Love him, always see it, didn't even know it was Gary. And then he said something, and I'm like, holy shit, I watch this all the time. What we need to do is those videos are great. When people are traveling, we do Rich Eisen, Dan Patrick, I have that playing on my network, but why am I not playing Jalen Rose? Why are we not doing a weekly special edition for Reach with Gary? And why are we not doing something, we're doing some stuff with Essence now, but why are we not doing more stuff with Essence and telling the stories of black women on our screens because of the impact on culture? I always say that black
And
culture,
BeautyCon,
yeah, I think black culture drives pop culture drives GDP. So if I'm gonna focus on, if I'm a brand, I wanna buy in over here and keep driving pop culture because I'm at the origin. So I think that's where we can make our collective powers much stronger, and their buying power across all of us is at the scale that no one can deny.
I just want to add to that. From what I've seen in the investment space, it's definitely a 1 + 1 = 10 kind of scenario when all of these platforms are combined. So completely agree with that.
There's a guy gave me a quote. It's not mine, but I've been stealing it. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, doesn't equal 3. It equals 11. So 1 + 1 = 11. That's the power.
I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that.
Right, okay. But I think the message was, that even that there's a huge opportunity collectively to present a much broader package, and I think that that's, something that we need to focus on a lot more together. And that was honestly at the root of what Group Black was built, which was how do we go to the marketplace with a much stronger offering together so that we show continued scale and the reach that we really actually collectively have, and make sure that we have a seat at the table to have the right discussions.
And collective bargaining power.
And I used to use an example. So in 1995, the NBA signed the collective bargaining agreement. Before that, the average salary of an NBA player was $200,000. 10 years later, after signing, it was 1.2. Now it's a little, we're stronger together than we are apart, always.
Absolutely.
100.
And looking at the media upfronts, shout out to Group Black and what you all have been able to do with the Group M's, the Dentsus of the world, and also Procter & Gamble. Again, when we all collectively come together, we tap into that bargaining power in that large-scale way with the media agencies. I have cut, upfront deals for Essence Ventures, but we're bigger together if we can all go to that table, and instead of it being a 2% in terms of guarantee and spend to Black-owned, let's make that 10%.
Yeah, yes. Please clap it up.
Yes.
And I also think changing that narrative around working with us, you can target much broad. Like we again, just because they're black owned doesn't mean black target. Gary, so why Hispanic?
Well, Hispanic, because the landscape of the country is currently changing. There's a lot of emphasis currently on black-owned media and the black audience, which is necessary, but at the same time, we also have to be very conscious that the Hispanic audience is growing. It just happens to be fragmented because you have Latin America, you have Mexico, you have Puerto Rico, so it's a bit sort of all over the place. But as far as the Hispanic the Hispanic audience is, it's certainly going to surpass the general market in the AA audience. So therefore, we're just thinking ahead, seeing what's coming, right? That the fact that the Hispanic audience is actually going to grow much larger than everyone else. Therefore, that content needs, as they're creating content, we need to be there.
Right, and the reason why I ask is just to continue to show how diverse the platforms really are. Okay, I was just getting yelled at. We have to go to audience Q&A. So we can do this two ways. I can call on you, or you can raise your hand if anybody has some questions. Thoughts? I can call on you guys, but no? Okay.
We have a little bit of competition with a marching band.
I know.
I thought we was at us, so we about to do
That was
something
for us,
else.
actually.
HBCU?
Yeah,
Let's go.
right.
I'm like, is Missy about to come out? Well, she will be at Essence Festival next weekend. Just saying.
Right. Okay, there we go.
Shameless plug.
All right, so I'll just keep going to wrap up. What do you hope to get out of Cannes this year?
More education and more deals, like I did last year. We cut a lot of deals last year. We're going to cut more this year.
Right. Did you guys come last year?
Yeah, for the first time, yeah. It
Okay. What was it good?
was amazing.
Right.
Absolutely amazing, yeah.
And expectations, same thing as him?
So this year, last year we were a much smaller company, and now we're coming here to, really start the big deals now that we've got all the scale. Yeah.
Right. Nikki, I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Just face-to-face, getting to know some of the media planners and just having those in-person conversations to grow business.
Right.
Grow business. Last year, this is my 7th year at Cannes, so it's always great to meet face-to-face with C-level decision makers and drive more business and more partnerships and networking with these incredible folks.
Right.
For us, it's
But that's not my question, Gary. No, my question. No, go ahead.
no. I mean, I want to leave here on Friday morning that we did the right. We educated the right media buyers, right agency partners, saying that investing in Black-owned media is not a charity. It's not a charity. It's not about a Black Power movement. It's not about George Floyd here. We have to do this. It's in order to look good, to chase headlines. I would like to leave here knowing that companies are making headways and really investing in our community because this is where the growth opportunity lies. So if I leave here with two head of agencies, investment leads, or brand partners saying, hey, we actually have to invest in Black-owned media because the opportunity, this is where the audience is, we can reach them authentically, and we can leverage Pod Media, or we can leverage ReachTV, or we can leverage Essence, Audiomob, or Glitter Magazine. It would be a great trip.
Right, and I always joke. Some people care about this, but everybody cares about this.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, like that, I think if anything leaves from this panel, hopefully that's the message that this is a true growth opportunity. And the funny thing is I've only spent my life mostly in general market, and the only place I've ever seen growth is underinvested in opportunities and communities.
Absolutely.
And this is that. Yeah. And I'll give one last example. When we were redoing Cadbury in South Africa, they had never put an all-black cast in an ad in South Africa. And the entire history that Cadbury was there, we did it. Pew, business shot up. They're like, oh, what happened? Well, guess what happened? We actually, and so that's the type of opportunity that exists, not even just in the U.S., but globally, I think on a larger scale.
And when you look at general market, especially the younger you go, it is a multicultural audience. So that it not only is there growth, there's scale in terms of audience. That's the younger you go, the audience is brown and Black, or multicultural.
So hopefully we can spread this narrative across Cannes. I will tell you, I see more Black people in Cannes every year, so that's good. But just because we're Black-owned doesn't mean we're Black-targeted, scale, and growth. So thank all of you guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.